All right, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start this process by talking a little bit about the difference between WordPress.org and WordPress.com. So the only reason we really need to do this is because if I don't talk about it and you end the session, you might be a little confused about how to get this process started with building your site. So I want to just address this to get it out of the way early on. So WordPress.org is what we're going to be using to build out the website and or the blog. WordPress.com is a really similar, almost identical platform. It's managed by the same company. The company is called Automatic. But the biggest difference is that WordPress.com is basically WordPress with training wheels. And they put some roadblocks in the way to kind of keep you from breaking the system and essentially breaking other websites as you build and progress with the website. So it is nice with WordPress.com that WordPress will actually host the website. But hosting isn't that big of a deal these days, and there's lots of hosting companies out there. Hosting isn't really that expensive anymore. And in a minute, we're going to go and kind of explore the hosting options with GoDaddy in this case. So again, we don't need to dig too deep into WordPress.com because the primary platform we're going to use is the WordPress.org platform. Now, in the old days, about 10, 12 plus years ago, you would need to go to WordPress.org. You would go and you would download a copy of WordPress, and you would then have to figure out, well, okay, what do I do with these files? You would have to get a hosting account with some company. You'd have to upload those files. You'd have to create a database. There was a lot of steps in the process, despite the fact that they said it's like a 5-minute process. It typically took much longer than that. So luckily, WordPress has grown in popularity to the point that, as it says right here, it now powers 38% of the web. So because WordPress is so popular, all the hosting companies, GoDaddy, Bluehost, and lots of others, they've all kind of gotten on board, and they now all offer this like really quick and easy WordPress install. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over to GoDaddy. And let's go ahead and jump back to the very beginning. So I am logged in. Hopefully I'm still logged in, but I want to talk just a little bit about what they offer. So GoDaddy is one of these companies that has a lot of different services and products, whereas other companies might just do hosting or just do domain names. GoDaddy does a lot of them. And the main reason I use them is because if you have a domain name or a website currently, chances are that it might be with GoDaddy. They're one of the more popular ones. So yeah, you can get domain names. You can get, they have actually like a website builder that's theirs. The hosting is what we're going to be talking about. And then they have WordPress specific hosting. They also do security, which are things like SSLs, emails, phone numbers, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and click on WordPress up top. And I'm going to scroll down. And up top here, they have 4 different kind of entry-level hosting plans. All 4 of these are specific to WordPress, and will give you a real quick and easy way to get it installed and up and running. And if this is your first site and it's going to be a relatively small site, it's fine to go with this basic level. You can jump up if you want in plan levels. But the one common factor about all of these is that they are all only accommodate one website. So if you do have more than one website in mind, you might want to look a little bit further down, and they have these 5+ plans. So plans for 5 or more websites. And so if I click on this one, we'll go look at the pricing for the 5+. Some of you might be thinking, why would you ever need more than one website? Others on this session might already be thinking about a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th site. So I went ahead and just before this session, I went ahead and signed up for this plan right here. So in a second, we're going to go look at that hosting account, and we're going to spin up a fresh, brand new, shiny WordPress website, and then we're going to start today's build by jumping in right at the very beginning. My goal is to kind of show you as many of these steps as possible from start to finish. I can kind of say finish. Websites are never done, and that's a frustrating thing for a lot of people, but I'm going to do my best to go through as many details as I can. So this is the plan that I set up so that I can have 5 different sites so they can kind of test this process. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and again, I already signed up for this plan. So if I click on my name at the top right, I click on my products. Let me clear a couple of these out of here. So again, I've got domains in here. This is the one that we're going to go into, managed WordPress. That term managed WordPress has kind of popped up in the past few years. And there's a lot of hosting companies these days that do hosting that is specifically optimized for WordPress. So I'm going to go ahead and click on managed WordPress. I'm going to go ahead and click on manage all right here. And this is going to take us into kind of like the top level of the site. This is a little demo site that I built out just the other day to kind of run through the steps that I was getting ready to record. But down here, I'm going to click on create site. All right, the first question it's going to ask us is, are we setting up a website from scratch? Which, yes, we're going to do that. Or are we going to migrate a WordPress site over? Today's session is all about learning how to build a WordPress site. So obviously we're not going to move a WordPress site. We're going to build one. So we'll do this one on the left, manual WordPress setup. Just a couple quick questions. It says, what's your username and password? And this is going to be our WordPress username and password. Make sure you write down what this password is. All right, next question is about where which server the website's actually going to get installed on. So we're going to do North America, assuming you're there. We'll click continue. And you know, the amount of time this takes kind of varies. I've run through this process a few times, and it's really quick sometimes. It takes a little bit longer for other times. But basically what's happening right now is GoDaddy is running a script to go and kind of grab a fresh copy of WordPress. They are creating a little space on the server, whichever server you've selected or they've selected for your site. They're creating a database, which is where all of the text and the settings are going to be housed. They're getting everything uploaded. They're getting the files in the database connected to each other. And in a second here, it's going to redirect me over to a landing page that'll actually let me launch the WordPress website. And I think they also send an email to whatever the account email address is, saying, hey, here's a link to the WordPress site just for your own record keeping. Okay, that wrapped up there, the install. And so now I'm going to just go ahead and click on view my site. This is going to open another tab, and now we have the front side of our brand new WordPress website. So if this is the first time you've ever seen this, I'm going to just kind of talk for a second about what's on the screen, and then we're going to kind of dig deep into this. So kind of starting at the top left, we've got this the name of the website. This is kind of just a generic name, a WordPress site. This is ultimately where a logo will go, and so that's obviously clickable to go back to the home page. We've got the tagline for the site, which is just another WordPress site. We can update that also. When the site gets loaded, all WordPress sites start out with some sample content. They're kind of pre-populated just to kind of help you get moving and understand how to create new pages and new posts and things like that. Next on here, we've got a little search bar to search on a site. By default, WordPress is going to be set up so that it shows a blog post on the home page. And a little bit later, we'll go in and change that, and we'll change it over to be the home page to be pointed to a page instead of a post. The reason that's set up this way is because WordPress actually has its roots as a blogging platform. That's how it started years ago, and it still kind of holds true to those roots, but we can definitely set up a WordPress blog or a WordPress website or a site that has both of those pieces of functionality, and that's kind of the ideal situation. So this first, this one post that's in there, it's called Hello World. It gets put into a category called uncategorized. It's got the author, it's got the date that it was published, it's got one comment that's attached to it. This is the contents of that post, and I can go in and I can quickly just kind of edit that, this post right here. Down here below, we've got widgets, which we'll talk about later in the session. And then the main thing I want to draw your attention to is this top bar, this top black bar. So anytime you're logged into the website, that top bar is going to stay with you, whether you're on the front side like we are now, or on the back side or the admin side, like we'll see in just a minute. And so I want to walk through what's going on up here. If you hover over a WordPress site, this is the name of the site again. It gives us a little drop-down menu to kind of jump to a few core areas of the admin side. We could go in and jump straight to the WordPress theme customizer, which we'll also look at. If we had any pending comments, those would show up here. This new option, this is going to let us quickly create a new post, like a blog post. Add new media, so those are pictures, JPEGs, PDFs, video files, things like that. We could create a new page or create a new user. The next thing over here is there's this little Y, and that's actually related to a plugin. And we'll go in and we're gonna talk about plugins kind of towards the end. So for right now, I just want to ignore that one. And then this next one you might not see if you're not using GoDaddy managed WordPress hosting. This is specific to the GoDaddy environment. So you might not see this, or you might see something else if you're on, let's say, for instance, Bluehost or something like that. And then over here on the right, we've got Howdy and then the name that you plugged in. If you've got a Gravatar set up, that is going to pull in your photo. You can jump to edit your profile or log out of the system. And so we're going to be using that black bar to kind of navigate around the site and be able to jump quickly back and forth between the front and the back side. Okay. The next thing I want to do is I'm actually going to shut down. I'm going to do my best to try to narrate without narrate as I click on things, just so that nobody gets lost. We're done with these two other tabs, so I'm going to shut these down just for ease of navigating. I'll leave this first tab, the GoDaddy interface, open just in case we need to get back to that for any reason. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the name of the site at the top left in the black bar. And this is going to take me over to the admin side or the back side of the website. I might refer to it a few different ways, but essentially what we just looked at was the front side, or what visitors would see if they came to our website. And then now we're looking at the admin side or the back side of the site. This is called the dashboard. So I want to take a moment to just kind of talk about the anatomy of the dashboard. It's important to get comfortable navigating around here. And we're actually going to use this top big white box to kind of walk through the next handful of steps in this build process. But I do want to at least talk about some of these different items and just kind of move through them. So up top, this first one is, it's a note. Again, this is specific to the GoDaddy interface, but the important thing to point out is that because this website's not connected to a domain name right now, notice you can see up here in this address bar, we've got kind of this randomly generated test link. Because we don't have a domain name attached to this, GoDaddy needs to give us some way to get to the website before it essentially goes live. Once it goes live, you're going to connect a domain name to it, and whatever hosting company you're with, they can help you get that step done. And GoDaddy goes ahead and they put up this little add domain name, which will probably just kick you back over to buy a domain name or look into your account to connect a domain name. This next white box down here, this is, you kind of think of it as just some quick links to be able to navigate around and do the first 4 to 6 to 10 steps that you might need to do in building out your site. So we're actually, in a minute, once we kind of get through what's showing up on the screen, we're going to go in and we're going to create another blog post. We're going to make a bunch of pages. We're going to set the home page to be one of those pages instead of being pointed to the blog. And then we'll just kind of work through this list. So for now, let's go ahead and skip past this top box and we'll go down here. So as of, I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 months ago, I forget which update it was where they added this, but we now have this, this little block over here called Site Health Status. And since this is a brand new install, WordPress install, everything's up to date. There's no issues. It's a fresh copy. But if there were any issues related to the install, they would show up right here in this box. Next, over on the right, we have this quick draft. To be completely honest, I've been working with WordPress for over a decade and I've never used this. It basically lets you really quickly create a blog post, but we're going to go in and we're going to actually do this kind of the proper way and the more robust way, where we've got all the settings that we might need to interact with. Next, we've got this at a glance. Again, this is kind of an overview of what you have inside of the website. So we've got one blog post. It was that Hello World post that showed up on the homepage. We've got one page and then one comment attached to that post. These also act as links. So we can get to posts and pages and comments over here on the left, but they give you kind of a little quick link section here. We are running currently version 5.5.1. That doesn't mean a lot to many people, but it's basically the most current version of WordPress with all the new features, bells and whistles that have been built into it. Over time, the WordPress site needs to be updated to kind of make sure it stays up to date with all of the current bug fixes and features that are added and things like that. The website is running a theme called 2020. And when I say running, I guess what I mean by that is the theme is kind of like a skin that gets wrapped around the website. It's like a paint job on a car in a way. You can, repaint your car without completely dismantling everything inside of the car. So the theme is essentially, it's going to control things like font and color and menu placement and widget placement and things like that. And we'll get deeper into that as the day goes on. This is an important one down here, and it says search engines discouraged. This is going to be set by default with any new website that you set up. This is a good thing to have in place as you build out your website. You don't necessarily want a search engine like Google to come and crawl through this website and have you show up on Google until you're actually ready for that to happen. Obviously, once you want to launch your website, you do want to turn that option off. And this is a link that'll take you directly to that spot. You can also get to it by going to settings and reading, which we'll do a little bit later. But this is important. And also, if you're taking this class because you have a website and maybe it isn't built on WordPress, but you're ready to kind of build your own site, you definitely don't want your development site to be competing with or conflicting with your live website. So that's an important thing to have on here. Next over here on the right, we've got a WordPress events and news block. This is WordPress's attempt to get people a little bit more involved in their community as it relates to WordPress. So here's here's WordCamp Asheville right there. What's going on? And, so it knows, ultimately it knows where in the country we are. And so it's going to plug in events that are happening nearby. I'm not sure what the exact range or radius is for that, but it's going to give us some information about how to get a little bit more involved in WordPress and the community specifically. We've got an activity block over here that is going to show us information about the blog posts that are showing up. So here's that one comment that I mentioned that's also kind of referenced right there. So there's the comment. We can approve it, unapprove it, reply to it, mark it as spam or trash review. A lot of times when we build out a WordPress website, we'll just go ahead and turn off comments altogether. If you are building a blog first, or and not necessarily building a website, but you're building a blog, you might want to get a little bit more involved or dig a little bit deeper into the comment section. That's totally fine. But a lot of times the commenting capability in WordPress is kind of opens up a door for potential hacking and spam. So a lot of times we'll just kind of close those comments from the beginning. And then down here at the bottom again, this is a reference to Yoast. Again, this is related to a plugin called Yoast SEO. We'll definitely dig deeper into this towards the end of the day. This is one of the plugins that's kind of comes pre-populated onto the site by GoDaddy. And depending on what hosting company you're using, they might have their own kind of blend or recipe of plugins that they pre-populate into the site and have active. And so, this interface, this dashboard might be a little different based on which hosting company you're going with. And even if you're with GoDaddy, over time, this might look a little bit differently. Okay, so that's kind of an overview, a breakdown of the anatomy of this admin side, this dashboard. And then over here on the left, real quickly, let me just talk about what these are. So the posts are blog posts, and we can go view all the posts. Right now, it's only going to have that one. We could create a new one. We can create categories for those posts to go in. And then we can tag those posts with various keywords, and we'll talk about these later. Media is going to go look at the media library, and we can jump straight to it there, or we can add a new image or PDF. We can go view all the pages or add a new page. We can go look at the comments. Appearance is going to control things like the theme, like we talked about. So we could change the theme there. We could customize the current theme that we're using here. We can control widgets, which were at the bottom of the home page that we looked at. The menu are the different page links that essentially show up. Background is related again to the theme that we've got active. The block editor we'll talk a little bit more about, and the theme editor we're going to stay away from, and I'll explain that as we get to it. Plugins, from a 10,000 foot perspective, a plugin extends the capability of a WordPress website. So if you want to do e-commerce, or if you want to do contact forms or anything like that, or event registration or event management, you're going to want to try to go find a plugin that does that functionality, and you're essentially going to plug it in to the website. It's going to give you that capability. You can set up users with different roles, and we'll go look at that as well. So you might have a staff of people that you want to loop in. You might want to share access to the site with somebody, and so you can do that there. Tools are going to let us do things like import site content, export site content. There's a little quick link to this site health section right there. And then there's a new section in here for personal data. I think this is also in the past year that they've added this. Settings control, kind of the core settings for the site. So we'll go dig through these a little bit later. We're gonna take it a little slower and kind of ease into this build process before we jump straight into the boring stuff, essentially. SEO, again, that's related to the Yoast plugin. This security, this is another plugin that is pre-populated by GoDaddy. And then this one also, this video tutorials, GoDaddy's created a handful of videos that will kind of walk you through this process. So if I don't do a good job today, go visit the video tutorials and they might clarify anything that I wasn't able to clearly explain. And then with this, you can kind of collapse the menu if you're using, let's say, a small tablet or a small laptop and you need a little bit more space. So last thing I want to do is, again, just kind of click on the menu. I'm sorry, click on the name of the site at the top. And this is going to jump us back to the front of the website. I'm going to do this a few times just to reiterate this. So if I'm on the back and I click on it, it takes me to the front. If I'm on the front and I click on it, it takes me to the back. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video for a minute and see if there's any questions. And then we're going to jump back in and we're basically going to walk through some of these steps. And we're going to, the next couple things we're going to do are create a new blog post, look and see like where that post goes, and just start to get familiar with how to edit content throughout the site. And then we're going to jump into creating a bunch of pages. We're going to actually go through and create a bunch of blank pages. We'll build a menu out from that, and then we'll dig much deeper into the editing capabilities and what's changed over the past year or two within WordPress, and how you can add content and style that content within the different pages. So hang tight.